Welcome to Next Level Operators, where we spotlight the people building high-performing businesses and how they're thinking about what's next.
So today I'm joined with my good friend and former colleague here, Kyle Whitright. We worked together for years at a company called Independent Power Systems, and Kyle is one of those rare engineers who makes complexity really look simple. And he spent, I think, more than a decade or close to it helping them to grow. And that company actually got acquired, and the owner is now living on the beach. And now Kyle actually works at one of the largest construction firms in the world. So he's a fast, sharp, and genuinely one of the kindest humans you'll ever meet. Kyle, thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
And one note, actually, so this is going to be about how business owners out there who are listening to this can really up level and think about different aspects of operations and engineering. But I do want to save some time at the end for one of your wild weekend warrior stories, maybe that time that you and your wife got rescued off a cliffside, or one of the alligator stories or something like that. So have that in the back of your mind. You come from a long line of engineers. I believe it was your grandfather, your dad, and your brother. You guys have all been in engineering. Did you always know you were going to go into this field?
No, honestly, so I mean, entire family's been engineers, and even in the utility space between coal, my grandpa, nuclear, my dad, and gas, my brother, and now me, solar.
Wow, that's a cool evolution.
I guess kind of a lack of direction led me into engineering, and eventually found myself in solar, which I'm grateful for, because the alternative was probably going to be something in the sciences and academia. But being on the practical application side, ending up in solar is probably one of the better options.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's exploded recently. I was just at a conference where I heard a similar story. I mean, even people our age went from gas to solar just with all the incentives. So when you first joined IPS, Independent Power Systems, what kind of company was it back then?
I mean, back then it was I guess I came in the middle of the Independent Power Systems story, I think. So they were established fairly well, decently organized as well as they could be, but it was still kind of a collection of outdoor enthusiasts coming together and doing solar, including the owner. But the owner's been in it for probably by himself, was probably about 15 years even before that. I think when I came in, I think it was the biggest the company had been and probably ever was. So it's kind of maybe at the peak or just after the peak of the success of that company. I think a lot of that had to do with the state incentives and federal incentives at the time.
Yeah. And so I guess what kept you there for so long? Was it the people, the mission, the work?
Yeah, I think it was definitely, I came in young. It was my first real engineering job out of college. It was just a great group of people to work with. Owner was awesome, kind of kept a nice office environment where we could have some freedom, have some fun, but still get the job done. And that kind of bridged the gap between the office workers and the installers, because we all kind of had the shared love for outdoors and the mixture of unseriousness and seriousness to get the job done when we need to.
Nice. So that was like the culture that you enjoyed, really, sounds like.
Yeah. It wasn't, starting off, it wasn't the pay, and I guess it never really became the pay, and that was ultimately the reason to leave.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. So in those early days, if you could go back to that first year, what would you do differently, or have with the knowledge that you have now about systems and things like that? What would you have done to help them kind of up level?
I mean, like I said, I think I came in at the peak of the company there, and I remember too, there was utility scale incentives. I think that were really, like, everything was just firing on all cylinders, and there wasn't a ton of organization. There was a lot of people doing a lot of different things and coming in during that.
Yeah.
There wasn't. And I guess I came in a month or two after their previous engineer had left, so there was no real turnover.
Wow.
And so it was getting thrown into the fire, which was good, but also the lack of training was hard that first year.
Oh, yeah. To not have like some kind of a handoff,
which had real consequences.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. The arrows in your back. So I guess despite that, you earned a reputation for being fast and accurate. What do you feel like clicked early on about how to work that way
I think just
within the
being hungry to
chaos?
learn. I mean, hungry to do a good job, hungry to learn, hungry to prove myself and just step up to the challenge.
Yeah. Do you remember a challenge, like what the biggest personal early challenge was in those days?
I mean, I guess the first challenge was like, it was my first time really even working in AutoCAD. So it was just learning the systems to work for me. And then it was understanding what the installation crews are looking for. And then the balance between like designing a system that works for the sales crew and the installation crew. And, hearing all the voices and trying to synthesize and play both sides and come to a balance, I think was probably most of that first year.
Yeah. Tale as old as time, sales and ops, right?
Yep.
From my perspective, that was something that I really enjoyed, and I think everybody in sales and across the company, marketing and ops, like having somebody who can just like take all of those disparate voices and
Hmm.
sometimes arguments and be like, okay, here's the engineering reality and the balance.
Yeah, exactly.
So for you, what did a smooth sales to engineering handoff look like when things went right?
I mean, first thing is just like never going back to the customer for changes. Anytime there's a change order, it's just a massive deal and just creates tension and
Yeah,
maybe some skepticism.
yeah,
And I don't think that happened too much on the just standard residential side. We had our P tool that was pretty well vetted and worked well for simple systems, but in the off-grid systems and anything battery is probably like 50% of the time, I would say, or maybe not even that much, but it was a fair amount of times that we would have to go back to the customer and maybe change something because it was sold a little bit wrong. But
yeah.
I think that maybe came when I first started there, we had some people that were more specialized in off-grid, and then they left. So then it was more standard salesmen trying to sell off-grid packages, maybe
I
without that
see.
experience and without that depth.
Yeah.
But smooth transition, I feel like happened most of the time because the systems were just in place. There had been years of experience using the P tool.
Oh yeah, the pricing tool, P tool. Nice.
Yeah. And issues only kind of came when there was some turnover and lack of experience for more complex jobs.
Yeah, I see. So you feel like the P tool though, the ability to have a salesperson who really kind of can come up with a design within the bounds of the pricing tool helped make a more elegant transition for the customer ultimately.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, I guess the salespeople were kind of a little bit independent on the pricing. They would come to me to see, maximum fit, which back then there wasn't software that could do that. Now there is.
Yeah, nice. Oh yeah, I see. So it was some back and forth before going to the customer with you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of time, I guess back then too, the software was so different. This is what, 2013 to 2017.
Yeah. Yep.
And so it was getting up on the roofs, taking actual measurements, giving those drawings to me to drop in CAD and see what fits. We could do a little bit of stuff in CAD and Google Earth imagery, depending on the angle of the satellite imagery and an estimated slope of the roof. I would say, I guess, yeah, that was one of the biggest things for a change order right there. Was if a salesperson didn't get on the roof and measure it, and we just had to go from satellite projections, and then that not being right when we actually get out there in the field.
Wow. I mean that seems like a good lesson in all of the trades and pretty classic in terms of like eyeing something. Um,
Yeah, and I think that still comes into play with some of the software nowadays, like because it does use the same satellite imagery. But I think it does a little bit better job estimating the actual roof area. But still, when you get out there in the field, you never know until you're actually measuring the roof,
yeah,
especially
that
vents
makes
too.
sense.
Like vents are sometimes easily missed from the imagery.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So if you could go back again, knowing what you know now and the experience that you have, what's one operational change that you would make that would have saved everyone time?
And it's always the balance, and because I was never in a managerial position, I don't know the labor balance with the needs of the engineer. But for me, it was always pushing to get a guy on site, talking to the customer, getting measurements, and starting off with an accurate design. From an
Yeah,
engineering perspective, it's limiting rework and just trying to come up with the best design as soon as possible. It may not make sense to always have a guy out there in the field, but from my perspective, that caused the least changes and the most clear communication up front with the customer about what they're going to get, what their expectations should be.
yep,
It was kind of like a little bit
yeah,
labor intensive on the front end. It was worth it when the jobs went through. And I think the balance is you send a guy out there a lot of times and then they don't sign. It's a lot of wasted effort.
yeah. So it almost sounds like the methodology of when a salesperson goes out there, because they're going out there no matter what, right? If they talk to
Hmm.
a homeowner, to really have ways to capture as much information as possible for then engineering to be able to support an out the gate refined proposal, which with the technology today is becoming easier and easier. So you've now seen both worlds, a tight knit local company and a massive global firm. What stands out as the biggest difference in how operations are run?
That's our question because I don't always see how operations run at the bigger company, and there's no real say. I mean, at the highest level, we're just kind of handed the jobs and given the task to do, and we have some control over like how our department handles the tasks we're given. But as far as like the selection of the jobs and the input we have to like maybe make a difference there, it's not really in our hands in the solar department. And what I do now is just create the layouts and the yield for jobs that are either going to be developed and sold or constructed for a third party or in-house. So it's both on the development side and the construction side.
So it sounds almost like siloed in a way where it's like the tight knit organization. It was like you might talk to the salesperson, construction person, the CEO, like you had access to kind of everybody. But in this company, I mean, really, you talk to other engineers and that's it.
Yeah, basically. And then there's maybe like some engineers that are the middlemen, but even sometimes they don't. They're going back and forth because they don't always know the details of like why a certain thing is being asked or why a certain angle is being taken. It's definitely a lot more siloed. And it's hard to say if that helps the success of the company or doesn't, because I don't always hear the conversations around even how a job turns out or how it's sold or when it's sold or if it's sold.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess at that scale, is there any sort of efficiency that you could see in that process, like macro, like you're saying, where it's like if there was a feedback mechanism of some kind?
Yeah, I think there is processes kind of starting to create a feedback process, but it's good to see where the job fell at the end of the day and then see if there's anything we could have done on our side to change the outcome for better or for worse.
Yeah, like a postmortem practice or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Even just a conversation with the teams without crunchy numbers, just generally how things went, or if there's time and the bandwidth and crunching numbers and seeing how it all plays out.
Yeah. Do you is there an interesting like learning that you could share from one of those experiences, good or bad, success or failure?
It honestly hasn't even really happened yet, but it sounds like there's interest there now. So maybe in the future
Nice.
to like
Yeah.
actually kind of go through and vet it. And the company I work for now, they are fairly new to solar. It's been wind for the majority of the life of the company.
Okay.
So it's still kind of getting on its feet fully with the solar side.
Yeah. Nice. Coming up with the systems to truly be efficient. And I mean ultimately on the solar side because of the all of the incentives for a while, my understanding being in that world myself in the utility scale side, there was so much money, so much incentives that you could kind of operate fast and dirty
Hmm.
almost and still make quite a lot of money. So on the other end, are there practices from smaller companies that you feel like could ultimately be implemented, like you're saying, in this brainstorming phase of optimizing that could be implemented in a larger company?
No, yeah, it's hard to say because I don't always know what is good or bad because of course more communication is good, but then it also takes a lot of time from people. So I think it's just finding the balance of communication, and when it works good, it's you know there's no complaints.
Yeah.
It's hard to know, the company is successful, profiting, so everything seems like it's working fine on the surface. But as you know, land is getting a lot more competitive, and a lot of the good land is already taken up. So I think
Yeah.
now it's in the industry, it's getting to the time where companies are going to be forced to really optimize because they're dealing with subpar land and potential longer
Get creative.
interconnection distances and and just a lot more challenges than it has been in maybe the previous decade.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go to some mechanics of these systems that you've learned from so far. Have you seen software or process tools that really streamline the handoffs, whether that be CRMs, project trackers, automated checklists, kind of everything outside of that P tool pricing tool?
I mean, honestly, most of the companies I've worked for have been pretty basic in that. I
Yeah.
mean, in the small company, it was just Trello cards, which is basic organization system
Yep.
that everybody uses to kind of manage the projects. And now it's, at least on our local engineering teams, it's just Microsoft Team Planner. It's just very simple card based tracker, kind of moving through the flow charts.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, do you feel like there's an elegance to having that simplicity? Like, is it a benefit to have some organizational simplicity for what needs to get done in that way, visually and
Yeah,
mechanistically?
I mean, I've never had any personal issues with it. It's clear to me. You can communicate within the cards. The cards are, it's visual, but it also, keeps things organized. Anybody can update. It's always worked fine for me, and I guess I've never seen other systems to know what other options are, but I've never had any problems with the organization of tasks and jobs.
Yeah. If anything, it sounds to me like the one of the key things, just having seen from the outside in, like the profitability that we had at IPS, that communication is almost one of the most important things,
Hmm.
whether that be the right amount of communication, but also the kind of tonality around the communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's think about this for our contractors who are listening in. If you were advising a growing contractor today, what do you feel like the first practice to tighten up would be in sales to ops engineering?
I think just fully, where everybody kind of fully knows the process and it's defined. I guess there's room for some back and forth and trying things out. But I think there's always been a problem with like having everybody's roles and tasks they're delivering absolutely defined. So there's
Unclear.
yeah, it's a little bit unclear. Things can fall through. I think that things don't become defined because it takes long and hard conversations to kind of get there, and people put their foot down and disagree. And so there's like this kind of gray area where people kind of go in between. But yeah, absolutely having like everything kind of defined initially is hugely helpful when you actually go through the effort to do that.
Yeah, nice. That's good. And so another thing that comes to mind for me in that is, what do you think keeps talented engineers and project leads around? Like, what kept you around and invested for so long?
I mean, I think it's, of course, pay, competitive pay, and the culture. I think it's the balance between those two. I stayed around with a smaller company a lot longer than maybe I would have if I wasn't just in genuinely enjoying myself there.
Yeah.
It's like hard to leave a place that you actually enjoy being, even if you're going to get paid more. But, eventually you might have to.
Yeah.
I think, once you get older too, then maybe that's not quite as important. I guess it's always important, but it's the balance between the two.
Start thinking about money more. And yeah, that makes sense. But over the years, you've seen changes in technologies and operational strategies. When you think about the future, even just like loosely, like magic wand sort of thing, and you think about tech, automation, AI, what excites you most about where the industry's headed in construction? Yeah. 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 I mean, on the software side that I've seen for operational communication and CRMs, and I mean, even things as far as image generation and things like that, I think that same logic applies, where it's like it's fine and dandy to have something happen magically, but if you don't have a good feedback loop to be able to edit it, then it's almost not always worth it, which is an evolution that I've seen, is that there, of course, it depends on the type of software that we're talking about. I don't use CAD software, so I don't know about that, but some of the others out there have more and more feedback loops available. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, that's something that I see in working with different companies around implementing new tools is it's like there's a fine balance of really taking the time with individual roles within the company and understanding what is critical to maintain and what can be more efficient or not, because you try to change too much without some feedback, and instead of becoming 10 times faster, which is possible 100 times faster, can actually slow it down if it's not implemented correctly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so on the, that's a technical computer job. Do you feel like you spend a lot of time outdoors with your family? Do you feel like that's your mechanism for balancing that cerebral computer facing job? Yeah. Yeah. Totally. So I guess on that brings us to our point here. Tell us the cliffside story. Okay. So obscure. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. That sounds scary, man, being that high up. And at that point the sun was going down, right? Wow. Okay. You had another story in mind as well? God. Yeah. Yeah. Damn. Oh my God. Oh damn. Oh my God. That's wild. That's a good lesson there as well. Bear spray. Well, thanks so much, Kyle, for your wisdom and your stories here. We really appreciate you coming onto the podcast. And that's a wrap, everyone. Looking forward to feedback. And Kyle, I'll be sending you some notes on this before I publish it, of course.